Welcome to Leaders and Learners. My name is Tanya McKenzie, and you can find me at the intersection of public relations and leadership. Join us as we talk to organizational leaders, elected officials, experts, authors, artists, and personalities, sharing their stories, talking about how they got to where they are and how they continue to learn and lead the way. So without further ado, let's get into it. Greetings, good people. Welcome to another session of Leaders and Learners, South Bay, where we talk all things South Bay. That's beach cities, Redondo, Manhattan, Hermosa, El Segundo. We're here to talk about all those things. Mostly we get into Redondo until we get more people that want to talk about their cities. But right now, I want to talk to you about District 2 because the South Bay is home of District 2 in LA County. I am your LA County Commissioner of Alcohol and Other Drugs for District 2, and there is a little concern that I want to share with you. We don't get enough public participation. Now, listen, I know everyone has their feelings about how drugs and alcohol are dealt with in our communities, particularly when we deal with the young people and what happens with them. We have different ways that we are dealing with things that not everyone is comfortable with or likes. But here's the deal. When we have commission meetings, we have a public speaking process where you can come in and voice your concerns about anything that we are deciding on, that we are supporting, that we are against, maybe that you support, treatment centers and treatment facilities and where these things go and all of that good stuff. It's all there for you to hear and weigh in on. But the public doesn't always weigh in if it's not something that is directly concerning them. So what I would love for you to do is continue to show up here. I will provide updates about what's going on with the Alcohol and Drug Commission. But I want you to know that as a member, as a resident of District 2, it is for you to weigh in on how some of these things are being decided in District 2. So really quick, I want to let you know our meetings for 2024 are out. They're all out. You can go on District 2 for LA County and find out when our meetings are, and you can call in, you can weigh in on anything that is on the agenda. I do want to give you an update really quick. I don't know if you can see this, but LA Unified School District, they have a diversion program for young people. So what that means is when they get caught with alcohol or drugs, they are dealt with in a way that does not bring in law enforcement immediately. If that is something that you are concerned about or even you support, there's an opportunity for you to call and weigh in. Now, there's statistics about how that has been helpful for students, how that has either been helpful or not so helpful in the schools. But you get to weigh in on these things that take place in District 2. So make sure that you continue to tap in or head over to Supervisor Holly Mitchell's page and see about some of the programs that we have going on, but definitely check into the commissions because that is where your voice actually matters. So I'm here for alcohol and other drugs, but there's so many other commissions. There's human relations, there's women's services, elderly services. So if you're taking care of someone that's older and needs different services, there's a commission for that. There's a housing commission. Like there is a commission for just about everything that needs a solution in this county. So make sure that you tap in and you stick around because I'll always bring you updates. I don't have any huge updates from December, but January, we have a lot going on. So make sure that you show back up. Now, on to Redondo. I'm not sure if you saw recently, but something that has been on the news a lot lately, in and out of circulation, has been conversation about the power plant. And it closed down finally on the 31st, I believe. The 31st, the 1st, they had this little celebration, but I'm going to bring in one of our amazing residents and someone that I have served this city with, Mr. Paul Moses. Hi, Paul. How are you?
Hello. How you doing? Hello,
I'm
Redondo.
good. Hey. So let the people know how you're doing, where you stay at in Redondo, and a little bit about how long you've been here, because I want them to have a little bit of background on why you are actually weighing in.
Okay. I've been a long time resident. I was born in Little Company, Mary. Like I said, I've grown up in the South Bay, and I've lived here since the mid '90s, just down by the beach. But currently, I own a house that's current. I can look out my window right now and look at the power plant. I live very close to 190th in PCH. So since I was a child, I have always wanted to get rid of the power plant. It's been kind of a goal of mine. And so I've just picked up that torch a long time ago and been at it. But so have a lot of other people. I mean, anyone that lives here around District 2 and has to look at this power plant, they probably wanted to get rid of it. So I'm not unique in that respect.
Right. So we served on GPAC together, yeah?
Yes. And we were for 6 years and $2.5 million. And we were cut short by one meeting and never completed our mandate.
All right. Tell them
that's another story.
No, tell them what GPAC was actually supposed to do. What was our goal? And then how did the power plant come into that?
The city has a general plan that is a zoning plan for the entire city. And it usually is updated about every 20 to 25 years. The Jim Light and a lot of the mayor's supporters demanded that we update the general plan. And so we went about the business of doing that. It's a big undertaking. 27 people were appointed to the general plan advisory committee to basically remap the city. A lot of it stayed the same. Most of the residential areas stayed the same. We worked basically on the commerce side and the corridors in the city to either revitalize them or not. The meetings were not super productive because there was a lot of infighting. There was a lot of bickering about process that just dragged down and basically wasted a lot of time. So yes, they originally allocated 1 year and $1 million. It's now been 6 years, maybe some say 8, and over $2 million. And we never finished our mandate to complete the GPAC. The general plan should be voted on by the community in March of 2025. We'll see what happens with that. That's a whole other story too. That's a whole other episode, the general plan.
It is. And, the power plant came up several times during our GPAC conversations. What did that look like to you? And what did you hope would come out of that conversation?
Well, I don't know how much it came up because it was cut out of our mandate. We could not discuss the power plant and the general plan. We could not discuss zoning because at the time when the GPAC was formed, there was some sort of idea that something was going to happen there already and the GPAC doesn't need to weigh in on it. Nothing could have been further from the truth. We should have gotten a lot more input on just zoning. And I think anything going forward regarding the plant should be nothing but zoning. But we'll talk about that. But yeah, it's outside of the general plan and the updates, and it'll be outside of what the community votes on in March of 2025.
So they just had the whole ceremony where they shut down the power plant. Why did that look like? Why did they make that look like it was something that the mayor and his friends actually accomplished when they didn't even have a say? Am I off?
No, you're not off. They didn't. I mean, many of us did want the power plant to close, and so did local officials because everybody wanted it to close. But it was painfully obvious that the State Water Resources Control Board made all the decisions, and they had all the power, and they based their decisions on so many other factors than people in Redondo saying we need to get rid of the power plant. So we really didn't have any influence on that. They said in 2010, we're going to shut down the power plant. We're going to outlaw once through cooling power plants all over the state. 2020 comes along, everybody's flat-footed. The current council was just dumbfounded by the moment, and we blew it. I mean, the city basically blew it. The control board said we're going to extend the contract for another 3 years, and there was no end in sight at that point. Now they've renewed it, or they didn't renew it, and things will move on. But that's it. If these elected officials and politicians want to take a victory lap, fine, let them do it. Ultimately, this moment is going to be a footnote, because the real impact of the plant is that it's still there. It operating, they can take credit for it closing down or, shutting off, and with their ridiculous styrofoam, breaker switch that, has as much to do as their impact. It has as much reality as the styrofoam breaker switch. But if they're going to take credit for it shutting down, why aren't they going to take responsibility for the mess we're in today? It shut down on New Year's Day, but here we are, first week of January, and there's no plan. There's no idea what's going to happen. They have no influence on what's going to happen. They can maybe be able to stop something or prevent it, or they're just going to delay it. So this is the legacy that the elected officials and the politicians have left us. They've left us a big mess. So let's hope they take some responsibility and start working toward cooperation with the property owner. And I will say about the history of it, there's been a lot in the paper about the history of the plant. And it's just become very apparent after 100 years that someone else has always controlled the plant. Redondo has never had a hand in what goes on there. So for them to, I don't know, it's an empty victory. I mean, I've been fighting against the plant, but I take no credit for this shutting down. It's made, these decisions are made in Sacramento and by agencies that are regional. So we could say, great, it's shut off, cool, great. But that's what they do. That's what politicians do. They'll just take credit for it. Fine, let them do it. Tomorrow is another day.
Who owns the plant right now, and what can happen or what can't happen?
Well, a gentleman named Leo Postelnikoff is the spokesperson of a number of LLCs that purchased the plant from AES. Strangely enough, it was actually a really small real estate action. $150 million for 50 acres by the beach. That's an incredible deal. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't have to do anything to make money. I mean, just operating the power plant for a few extra years has made him, a ton of money. He's probably got a handsome return on his investment already. And he can just land bank it for all he wants. So he really doesn't, have to do anything. He says he wants to do certain things. There's, again, big regional state agencies that are going to weigh in on these things. And who knows where this is going to head. But at least he has a plan, which is, more than what Redondo has. The only thing that Redondo may have some power over is stopping some type of, dense development if it comes to an upzoning. But again, Mr. Postelnikoff, he's been described to me as a better litigator than he is a developer. So he's pretty sharp, and I think he's going to prevail in court. So we may see, what his vision is. And it almost seems, because I heard recently, from one of the mayor's supporters, they've conceded that the site needs to be mixed use. It's not going to be a park. It needs to generate income. It needs to, the city needs income, and the whatever goes there is going to have some commercial and some retail or whatever component to generate some income. They can't just allocate the whole thing to be park. So they've given up on that dream, which is great because that's all it was. It was just a dream.
Speaking of dreaming, somebody dreamed up a big idea to have a new website and some new branding. What do you think about all of this newness going on with Redondo, Paul?
I haven't used the website immensely, and what's new is, everything that's new is, or everything that's old is new again, or whatever they say. I'm sure that the old website had a few navigation problems. It wasn't the most simple thing to use. Great, we get a new website. Gee, what is it? The 1990s? Fantastic, a real step in the right direction. That's great, guys. Fine and dandy. The other stuff that's new in the harbor. So we're getting, we lost, maybe 4 restaurants: Polly's, Joe's Crab Shack, Ruby's, and Chillers. We're going to get 2 new restaurants there. One's going to be kind of exclusive. You pay a membership to get in. But yeah, we're still net down 2 restaurants. And, I would hope that after years of being closed, that these restaurants would get someone to buy into them and develop them. Are we going to see a big giant change in the harbor? I don't know. I mean, it's just 2 new restaurants. They're just restaurant ventures, just like any other in the harbor that I've seen over the decades. Restaurants come and go. They all plan to be the best thing and stick around forever when they're launched, and half of them don't survive. So we'll just see what happens.
Paul, before I get you out of here, I do have a question for you. I did not get a chance to ask you to weigh in on what happened with Zain Obaji. So the guilty verdict came out with him, and it has not been brought up at City Council at all. And I would love your thoughts as to why.
Well, it went down pretty much as I predicted, that they just stayed silent on it. The city attorney made a decision to say that his conviction of moral turpitude, because it was not made in a criminal court, but it was made by the State Bar Association, somehow is not moral turpitude in regard to our charter. Our charter is very, very clear. It just basically says a council person that is convicted of the crime of moral turpitude, the council will consider that seat vacant. It is a kind of a trigger clause. As soon as that happens, that seat should have been considered vacant. It wasn't. It isn't. We've got no clarity from the city attorney, no clarity from the council, not even a question. And this is where you've got incumbents that are comfortable with their positions, and this is why we have term limits. It's time to get these people out. They're not serving the community. They're serving themselves and their agenda. So we need to clean house in the next election. And basically anybody that's been on council for, more than one term, got to go. This can't stand, because when people just utterly flaunt the rules and they just laugh in your face about it, it's who we, electing as leaders. That's terrible. There's one thing you want to say about the power plant again. The power getting shut off from the plant is not what denigrates our lives. There was a guy named Tom O'Leary in this community in decades ago. He focused on eliminating the power plant. He knew that it wasn't just the pollution, because the plant really only operates less than 2 months a year. Yeah, it pollutes, it harms the sea life, but it's not that really ruins our lives. What denigrates our lives is just the mere presence of it. Even when it's shut off, it's just an eyesore. It takes up a huge amount of our quality of life with just this industrial wasteland that's there. And I remember telling CJ Thompson, the previous power plant manager, this place is a cancer that needs to be cut out of Redondo. It is just horrible. And, the power lines basically run almost right over my house. I'd love to see all this stuff gone, but I know it's not going anywhere until we had a plan. They said the city got 10 million for a park. Well, they lost that 10 million for a park because we didn't have a plan. We still don't have a plan. So again, this all goes back to, what are our elected leaders telling us? Are they telling stuff that is in reality? Are they serving the community and its best interest? Or are they just serving themselves? If you want to give yourself an award and a ceremony for something you really didn't have responsible for, okay, but I'm not going to vote for people like that. They're not serving us.
Speaking of serving us over here in North Redondo, we're getting served with a new smoke shop that is bigger than any restaurant on this street on Artesia. What do you think about that? Like, what is going on with the ability to bring and keep quality businesses on Artesia? Do we deserve better than this? Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, and that goes back to some of our mandate from the GPAC. We tried to revitalize the Artesia corridor. I served 8 years on the Public Art Commission. The vast majority of all our recommended public art installations are on Artesia. We wanted to make it this gateway to the city. None of those have been implemented yet. And this stuff's been on the books for over 15 years. So, you've got this corridor that's kind of dying on the vine. You don't have, it's not thriving. It's got restaurants that are closing and leaving. And so who's it going to attract? It's not going to attract, people that want to put in some high-end restaurant or any kind of service, even real estate offices. So you get smoke shops and vape shops and whatever, whoever's going to pay the rent. The landowners, they'll take the money from anybody. They don't really care. And the city can't really do much unless they pass an ordinance to say, no, we can only have one smoke shop in so many miles or whatever it is. Believe me, I'm an anti tobacco person, through and through. And I don't think we should have any tobacco shops whatsoever. And tobacco should not be sold at liquor stores at all. But, that's what we get. We don't have any leadership. We don't have any plan up there. We're going to vote on this general plan. I have a real feeling that especially North Redondo is going to vote against it because it's the same plan that includes 4,000 new residential units crammed into basically Zain Obaji's district. At his hand, he came up with this idea. So it's an exciting time in that respect to see, boy, we're going to get more stagnation. Fantastic. Good job, Redondo. Fantastic leadership. But yeah, so you're going to get a smoke shop. That's what you get if you guys don't get involved. If you don't start saying, I want to be in the GPAC. I want to know what's going to go on. I want to make sure this plan flies and it's a good one. But the plan is controversial. It's split and between North and South because South Redondo found somebody to shove all the new housing in North Redondo. And South Redondo got zero new housing units. So
it's just amazing to me that this guy who ran on, I'm going to get rid of the Blythe, which we still have these vacant lots over here that our homeless are sleeping behind. And now we get a smoke shop. It's Manhattan Smoke Shop. And when it was in Manhattan Beach, it kept getting broken into. So now are we going to get more police officers to make sure that whatever issues that it's bringing here will be covered? Like, are you thinking? I just want people to think. Like, are you thinking about what you're doing? Are you thinking about how it'll affect the people in that community? Or do you just not care? Do you just not care? Just say that then. Because you already have this.
I think people do care. I think the public is incredibly involved and they see this but they just don't, they have put so much trust in the leadership here to take care of things and it's not getting taken care of.
Oh, when I say just don't care, I was talking about leadership.
Yeah.
Do they just not care?
They may care, but they again dropped the ball. They didn't pass an ordinance to limit the amount of smoke and vape shops, which have been around for over a decade. And maybe they just city's desperate for sales revenue. I mean, again, our cities, there's a whole nother program we could do about the city budget. We've got $105 million budget and they say, oh, we've got more revenues than ever, but no, we've got more costs than ever. And they're outpacing those revenues. And little known is our city used to make the majority of its income from sales and TOT, which is transient occupancy tax from hotels. That has dropped precipitously. And now our major source of revenue for the city is property tax. And property tax is an interesting thing because people know that's my money going to their silliness and they're not leaders. And so I'm not sure I want to give any more of my money to those leaders because we're paying to run the city. Basically comes straight out of our pockets to make sure that the sewers work, and the streets look good and the cops are paid and the firefighters show up and want to be at their jobs. And now this, it's in the hands of people that sell us this bill of goods. It's going to be a park. It's got to be the biggest lie in Redondo that it's ever, and here's revitalization in the harbor. City had nothing to do with it. It's private enterprise taking over 2 abandoned restaurants. So it's time for change, Redondo. It's really time for change.
Hey, what happened with all of the workers that were picketing in front of City Hall? Do you know?
I did read that they've come to terms with a few of the unions, or some of the unions or the groups. The situation never should have got that bad. These people make the city run, and they had to just basically start picketing city council meetings. It doesn't happen often when you've got the majority of city employees just ready to walk off the job and suddenly everything stops in the city. So that's the leadership.
My question is, if they're saying they have record profits, why are they struggling to pay their employees?
We don't have record profits. What we have are higher revenues, but we also have a higher cost. And those costs are outside of what is like the city's payroll responsibilities. So yeah, you may have $105 million in revenue, but you have $125 million in cost. you're falling short. It doesn't matter if revenues have gone up if your costs have outpaced them. And you've got,
and these are the same, and these are the
60,
same
70
people.
employees that are just bent out of shape because they haven't had a raise in 10 years.
And these are the same people that do everything they can to keep anything new from coming here.
Well,
Okay.
they're the face of Redondo, and they're the people that actually show up and pour the concrete. They fix the potholes. And that's just, and that's their jobs. That's their livelihoods.
Livelihood.
The one thing I did notice is like the upper management in Redondo has all split. They've all left. They've moved to Torrance. They've moved to Rolling Hills, because there's better gigs. There's better paying gigs. There's, easier cities to deal with. And so like the upper management train has been bad. We just haven't heard about it because they celebrate outside of the city when they leave. We've lost some really, really good people. And it's really just because like I could go make 30 grand more. Another thing about our anti-traffic council majority, we don't have a traffic engineer. We haven't had a traffic engineer in years because they're advertising the position and it's underpaid, and no one wants that job because it's like, I'm a traffic engineer. I'm not going to work for minimum wage. So it's just, again, we don't have the money to do these things because we've killed all the revenue sources because we stopped all the development. So maybe things will change. Maybe Legato will bring in some new revenue. It's going to be a new hotel. It's going to be some retail. It's going to have a lot of new, neighbors that are going to move in and they're going to bring revenue to the city. That's fantastic. We've got the Galleria. Hopefully that will get off the ground. They're having a lot of problems and they were hindered right at a critical time. They were hindered by the NIMBYs in the city stopping any kind of improvement in the city for their own, basically not in my backyard attitude. And what's happened? We've got just a crime magnet now up there at the Galleria because there's no investment. Macy's just basically said, I don't care what happens. We're going to run this store into the ground before you guys, we're not going to do anything until you guys start improving this place. That's what we get. That's the leadership we've got right now.
Well, let's continue to keep the people updated. And hopefully when it's time to vote, they'll make some better.
You'll hear a lot from us in the next election season. I just want to tell everybody in Redondo that it's a real opportunity for change. It's a real opportunity to basically get rid of the 20 years of poppycock that we've got from the current, leadership, and then none of it's come to fruition. So they can go throw a styrofoam, breaker in a lot, and it's very telling that they had to have that ceremony outside of the AES property because those people aren't welcome on the AES property. The current owner would have them arrested for trespassing, so they had to dab it in a dirt lot next to it, And great, take your victory lap, fine, but it's tomorrow. What now? What now?
Right. What now? All right, guys, make sure you stick around because we will be able to update you on what now. I think there's a city council meeting next week, so we'll probably have an update for that. And Paul, Happy New Year. And I look forward to us continuing to educate and empower our community with information because it's lacking. So let's do our part. We can get the information to them and see what they do with it.
And thank you, Tanya, for doing this and being a vessel for good information to the people of Redondo. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll keep bringing it to them. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, guys. Don't forget to continue to tune in. We are here on Wednesdays, maybe not every Wednesday, but anytime we have good information to share with you, we will be bringing it to you. Yes, the power plant is closed. Didn't get a chance to chat about what happened at Del Amo over the holidays. Listen, if you got kids, watch your kids. Okay, pay attention to your kids. I don't think most of those kids were the kids from the South Bay, but we still have to pay attention to ours because they get caught up in the mess. And that's what I saw, and it broke my heart. But God bless all of our law enforcement who come out and they keep our communities and our public spaces safe because it was a little terrifying. I'm sure we all saw the pictures. We've probably had friends or even kids that were stuck in the melee, which is absolutely unacceptable. And I just hope that as a community, we do our best to wrap our arms around these young people and let them know what's right, what's wrong, what we won't stand for, and how to behave, because that was just unacceptable. Anyways, with that being said, I do want to again make sure that you understand we will be back on Wednesdays to keep you informed and updated on what's going on. If there's anything going on in the South Bay that you want to talk about, email us at info@sandandshores.com or send us a DM wherever you're watching this clip. You can see this on Spotify. Share it with someone that you know could use the information or might be interested in what's going on with AES, the workers that were picketing, the smoke shops, and just getting more involved in the civic going-ons of their city. So stay tuned. Thank you for showing up, and we'll see you soon. Hey, thanks for showing up to the podcast where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. When you get a sec, take a moment, leave a comment. What do you think about today's episode? And share it with someone that you know could use the gems that were dropped today. Follow and subscribe. You don't want to miss who's coming up next. You never know who could show up here and what they could say. For your professional needs, marketing, PR, communications, and leadership, make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at Sand and Shores, or hit us up at sandandshores.com. Again, thanks so much for showing up. We appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.